All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is Charlie Fighting Shotgun Charlie and Matt from Meet the Pressers. We are here at the SHOT Show 2025 live from Las Vegas.
Vegas, Nevada.
Vegas, baby.
Vegas, baby, Vegas.
Right. So we're doing some live shows here today. We hope you guys are all tuned in. We have with us John Petrolino, the Penn Patriot. This guy's resume, let me tell you what this guy's resume. He writes for Bearing Arms. He writes for Campbell Land. He writes for The Truth About Guns. He writes for Shooting Weekly, Shooting News Weekly. He's got his own blog. It's called The Square Reviews. Brutally honest reviews of products. And you're everywhere. We can't, I'm telling you, so we can't go one place without being like, oh, John Petrolino, I've read your stuff.
The interviews that we did with other people earlier, John.
That's awesome. I do overlap it. So let's be fair. Thank you so much, guys, for having me. And I love all the places that people have. I put most of my stuff out in Bearing Arms, and then when I can, I do as much like the other days. It's such a pleasure, and I get it. Content creators, instructors, the industry's wonderful. So it's just difficult to walk around and not find something, right? So that's the way I see it. So.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, you are definitely a force to be reckoned with in the writing industry. And hoping to see some stuff transpire last night.
If we get in from the Gundies at midnight, we would have had some sort of a Gundy, article, but I had to get it into the Gundies, So
It's just tall. Wow.
Yeah, we don't want to picture that.
Right. That reminds me of the other places you're right. It's News 280.
yeah, big shout out to newstrade.com and the project that's called the infringement report. And at the infringement report, we are tracking and getting together with applicants for the types of permits in New Jersey that are having issues with authorities and going beyond the statutory time limits, maybe doing some gains. We're interviewing people, we've been getting evidence via all of the electronic submissions, because there's email chains to that. And, yep, not even on the FOIA, we get the emails right from the people, and then we hit up the police department and say, hey, just looking for a comment about this is what's going on. Sometimes we get a response, sometimes we don't. We hit up the mayor and say, hey, just want to know what's going on. Sometimes we get a response, sometimes we don't. But with two of the reports that we did put out, one person was issued the paperwork within, I think, under 12 hours, and another person was issued their paperwork in over a business, like a weekend, so it's like a business day. So,
that category, when I called the court after the interview I did with Otis Technology, Campbell published it back in 2019, I came up with a thing I called the 4 horses.
right.
But that fourth one is that jury of public opinion, and that's what it is. You guys are going out there, stirring up business, the business has to go back and saying, listen, get this stuff right, you're doing it wrong, stop messing with people's rights, and make it turn it around quick, because they don't want to listen to that.
Exactly, and this is part of the project is we're asking the questions. It's just the facts. It's the facts, and the facts are
on our side.
Yep.
This is what the law says. Can I get a comment on that? That's it, and then we go from there.
Oh wait, he knows some stuff.
Yeah, we try to know some stuff, right? So that's one of the new projects at news2a.com. So I want everybody to go out there, subscribe to news2a.com. They got some fantastic work. There's some great writers out there. Charlie also writes for news2a.com. And, so check that out to give them a big plug,
Yeah, those guys are great. Sean and Grant run on News 2A. They give us an outlet, which is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
So you, speaking of things that you've been talking about that are going on in the state of New Jersey, or the New Jersey as you call it, right? Not the old
it's
Jersey.
It's the New Jersey, not the old Jersey.
Right.
One of the things that you've been hammering home is some racism that's going on in the state of New Jersey?
I mean, I don't want to sit here and say that there's racism going on, but what we discovered was there's a pattern that does not look good for the issuing authority. So to get everybody up to speed, New Jersey was one of the Bruin response states. So this was one of the states that had to respond to Bruin. So the day after Bruin came out, they removed our justifiable need, which is akin to New York's
Proper cause.
Proper cause, exactly. So all of a sudden, the Supreme Court said the peasants shall have their pitchforks, and
I love that line, by the way.
the peasants
awesome.
shall have their
That's
pitchforks, whether or not they like it, whether or not they agree.
Yep.
So they started issuing out permits. There was a Bruin response legislation. Of course, we're challenging that. But during while this was going on, they were saying, there's going to be like 200,000 carriers, and they're releasing a dashboard, and the Attorney General's telling the issuing authorities that they need to collect this data and send it to the AG for them to aggregate. And so everybody knows the issuing authority in the state of New Jersey is going to be the local police chief, or it's going to be essentially a state police barracks, and by extension, it's the colonel of state police himself that's issuing that permit.
The colonel.
The colonel, right? It's his electronics. The colonel. It's got 11 herbs and
11 herbs
spices.
and spices.
Sorry.
So once these, you apply for your permit to carry, it's all electronic. Like now it is 100%. So they collected this data, and then they released this data last year around March and April. I'm looking at the information that they had, and what was missing was information on race. So I opened a Open Public Records Act request, which is a New Jersey FOIA, right? Freedom of Information Act request. And I said, hey, looking for this data on race. It doesn't seem to be included in the dashboard. So they returned to me instructions on how to access it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the data was not there, but I will say myself and other people that are way smarter than me could not find that race data. But armed with the knowledge that the Attorney General's office gave me, I was able to access the race data. So right off the bat, what did we find? That more than double the applicants who were black were denied over white. So 2 times more, right?
Wow.
And one of the conversations that people want to have and can have, and I think it's an important conversation as well, you have a higher level of incarceration in the black community, therefore you're going to have a higher level of disqualified persons in the black community. There's a couple of things we need to get out of the way first. Number one, you're supposed to already have your firearms ID card when you apply for your permit to carry. So if so you already have that, so you should already have a clean background. Second to that, that's an important conversation that we can have about the issues in our criminal justice system. But we drilled down further, and there's a law, and it's a statute, and it says that people may not get their permits issued, where the issuing authority can say, no, you don't get a permit if they believe it's not, quote unquote, within the interest of public health, safety, and welfare of the population, and the applicant doesn't have the proper temperament to own or carry a firearm. And this is, what kind of standard is this, Matt? You're shaking your head.
It's a crappy standard. It's the same standard they're doing in New York, where they move from proper cause to good moral character, which is...
Right. So what's good moral character?
Subjective to the person, of the eye of the beholder.
That's right. It's a subjective standard. So
Usually
they're still using subjective standards in New Jersey. And what did Bruin teach us?
You can't do that.
Footnote number 9 says that the standards need to be objective standards. They have to be narrow, definite, objective standards that are definable. So we look at that standard. So now, of the permit to carry denials in the state across the board, more than double of them are actually a subjective standard. That just means I don't like Matt, so I'm going to deny him.
Right.
Looking at the black denial rate with the subjective standards, it's like 2.5 times more.
Wow.
And that data in, I want to say, September, the last time I looked at it, it was actually like 2.6 times more blacks denied over whites. And I talked to some other people, some statisticians, and got some of their opinions and some other people behind the scenes. And they're finding that rate is 4 times that of whites. and in certain counties, it's up to 30 times more.
And they've already gone through a background check. They already got through. It's a FOID, right?
Yeah, firearm owner's identification
FOID.
card.
So
Yeah.
a FOID card, which means they've been background checked. They have it. It's kind of like in New York where you go and get your pistol license, and then you have to go and you get a background check for that. Then you have to go and get a background check to buy the handgun.
Yeah, it's a firearms ID card, and then it's like, and that's for long guns. So it's funny that they make you get that to get your permit to carry, but I think they do it in stages so that you have your SBI number. That's the State Bureau of Identification number. So with that SBI number, then you just plug that in to get your permit to carry. It actually cuts out some of the red tape. I'm for that. But these are people that are already being said that they're a fit element of society.
Yeah.
Right?
There are some states where if you have a carry permit, they skip the background check and still do the 4473.
Right.
Occupied territory where I live, you have 2 background checks to get a license, and then you have to go through a background check every time you buy a gun. How many background checks does somebody have to go through to prove that they're not a criminal?
Exactly.
How many?
So that's some of the data that we found there. And what did I do? I approached the Attorney General's office with this information when I first came and found it and said, can I get a comment from you on this, what I'm going to call racial disparity in the permitting system?
Right.
And of course they wrote me back and they said we declined to comment. So we set the clock, right? So the Attorney General's been notified. I reached out to his press office, and since I do Open Public Records Act requests and things like that, I sent out that email also to the Attorney General's account himself, right?
Okay.
So it goes directly to him and to his press office. So after that happened, set the clock. About a month later, I launched another Open Public Records Act request, and that Records Act request was, there was 2 of them. There was one asking about excessive delays. Why are we going past the X amount of time that they have to issue these permits? And the other one was if there was any guidance sent out to the issuing authorities in dealing with race and a subjective standard, because a subjective standard is illegal.
Yep.
So after I sent that out, the Attorney General said that he
I have to get back to you on that.
declines to comment.
Oh, my goodness. The Attorney General declined to comment.
Attorney General declines to comment.
Wow, we should get Trump involved.
Yet again. I would like to. All right, that's not cool.
No, not at all.
I'm tracking this further, following things. And then finally there was, I sent out correspondence to Governor Murphy's, 3 of his press contacts, 3 times via email, looking for comment on this. No reply whatsoever.
Wow.
Sent a snail mail letter that was stuffed with all of the correspondence, mailed it to Trenton, to the Attorney General, to the Governor, Governor Phil Murphy, and I got no reply. So they're ignoring everything unilaterally.
Wow.
Maybe they blocked your email, John.
Yeah, maybe. Good. You're on some list.
No, I mean they did
Right.
it because when I wrote in. So there was a press release that came out. That's funny because this press release came out from the Attorney General with him talking about looking into instances of racial bias in the medical field in New Jersey, and they go on the record saying there is racial bias, there's systemic racism, and all this stuff. Am I cool? I'm going to play by your rules, and I'm going to ask you. And I reached out to the Attorney General yet again, and I said, hey, I see that you're concerned about racial bias in the medical field. How come you're ignoring what looks like implicit racial bias concerning these firearm, documents? And what do you think he said?
I declined to comment.
Right. Well, first, this is the first time they called me by name. They said, John, when you write the Attorney General, only send us, your request for comment. Don't carbon copy him as well.
Hold on a second. We have somebody just come in. We have other people to be interviewed, but
hey, what's up?
Whoa, look at this.
Clint Macro.
How are you? You're Clint? Nice to meet you.
So good to see you.
Hey, There's
Clint
all kind-
Macro from.
We've got
from-
Garfield here
Oh,
too.
the next one's coming in.
I wish we had some cameras over there.
They're like hyenas in the tree.
I feel like a fish in an aquarium.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, for you guys that don't know out there, we've got people walking all over the place, looking at us, waving at us, pointing at us, and it's kind of neat. We
It's
do
kinda
feel like
fun.
a fish.
I
fish
feel
in a
like
fishbowl.
I do.
Totally,
I do.
totally.
Maybe more like a manatee. I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like a
Yeah, but a
manatee.
manatee, you can reach in and pet them. I guess that's what Clint kind of just did to us.
Clint-
Right.
He
yeah,
just come in
he
and
did.
pet us.
For sure. So the Attorney General's office wrote me back and said, when you look to us for comment, do not carbon copy the Attorney General. So they got tired of me including him in the correspondence. But the only reason I included him in the correspondence is he can't say he's not culpable. He knows about everything. They've been notified that this stuff is going on. So since then, I have refrained from notifying him directly. But I'm going to save that. If I have something really juicy, I'll maybe accidentally carbon copy him.
Like, oops, sorry, I forgot. It was just
I
set
know.
up.
It was
Oopsies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming they're also probably doing that because they don't want the Attorney General, one, being separate from it, but then also if they ignore you and the Attorney General comes back, oh, hey, did you get? Oh, yeah, it must have gotten lost in spam or something, and they can kind of use that excuse as much as possible. They don't get in trouble.
He wouldn't care. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, when I went to Philadelphia to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals to watch the preliminary injunction hearing on Coons and Siegel. Now, these are our sensitive place lawsuits, for lack of a better term. Bruin response law lawsuits, and we're challenging all of that, and those are two cases. That was heard, I think it was October 25th, 2024, and we still have not gotten an answer on our preliminary injunction. So we're still surfing on a preliminary injunction from the Federal District of New Jersey with a partial stay from the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. While I was there, reporting on this, sitting in, I did see the Attorney General, and I went up and I, introduced myself to him. I gave him my business card. I said, hey, let's get together, have a cigar sometime. It's on me. Let's hang out. He's like, oh, yeah, sure. I don't think he knew who I was.
He went and sanitized his hands after that.
He definitely knows.
Take a
He
shower.
definitely knows who I am. I can tell you that much. He didn't know who I was then.
Didn't know by name, by face.
Not by face. That's right. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching him in the gallery, and he fell asleep while somebody else was defending.
Didn't we
the
have a
lawsuit.
president that did that?
Yeah, but this guy's
Former?
younger than me, bro.
Right.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Fell asleep.
Not that I'm that young, but he's younger than
Right.
me.
He's not in his 80s.
He's not in his 80s, right?
don't.
Exactly. So that's what's going on in New Jersey.
Wow.
That's a
it's-
lot.
Sounds like just as bad as New York.
Oh yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
So, what about you guys? What do you guys got going on?
Just keeping up.
Yeah. Trying to stay awake here at SHOT Show.
Right.
Last night was a long night with the Gundies, and
Oh, mercy.
Yeah.
That was cool. I
It
liked
was.
the Gundies. What
It
did you
was
guys
fun.
think of that? Because
My
I
first time.
didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time they did that in the big auditorium
Second time they
Is it
did
the
in
second
big
time?
auditorium, but this is the first time they open it up to
to the public.
Right.
I thought it was really neat. I definitely wanted to check it out. I would do it again.
I am too.
My only reservation is it's the same time that the NSSF PAC dinner is. So, like, if you want to do that and that, you can't.
Right.
Also, Arms Room Radio, good
Yes.
friends of ours.
Yes.
Good
Mike
friends of
Pewarski.
ours. Mike Porowski from Arms Room. They do their thing, right?
They have a gathering as well.
And he's been doing that for, he said,
A
a
long
decade,
time.
he said. He said
Yeah.
he's been doing that for 10 years.
Yep.
So I'm not going to talk about what he told me this morning.
Or
That's
he
his,
told us last night.
Or he told you last night. Well, I didn't see him last
yeah,
night.
we
to
did.
be
We went
fair.
there at 6 to set up.
Okay,
help him.
perfect. So
Before
I'm
we
not,
went to the Gundies.
I'm not going to tell his story,
Yeah, no.
right?
Let him tell it,
It's his story to tell.
for sure.
But I'm excited.
He's excited about what he wants to do now.
yes,
So he doesn't get people disappearing.
I like bratwurst. That's what he normally does, right? His brat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like a
Yeah.
beer house.
Some
Is it a beer
schnitzel
house?
and some brats. I like that.
It just sounds really bad. This is
Schnitzel
supposed to be a
and brats.
family show, guys. A family show.
You have to. Yeah, I guess
Schnitzel
so.
and broth. That's
Brats, yeah. But the Gundies was cool.
The Gundies was really cool because it's at this huge auditorium. It was probably 2/3 full.
I'd
Yeah.
say
2/3 to
it
3/4.
wasn't. It
There was a lot
wasn't
of people
jam packed,
outside,
but
too.
Yeah, there were a
they
lot
could
of
have
people
pushed some
outside.
people down a
Yeah.
little bit further and
Yep.
maybe, organize that a little bit better. I
Sure.
wish apparently, did you know there was like an appetizer hour?
No.
No.
Apparently there was appetizers. I guess I heard that rumor.
Yeah,
right.
That's
I wish I
right.
would have known. I went there hungry.
And they said there was like a 2-hour open bar. But maybe this
missed
was for
that too.
maybe this was for the finalists. I have
Right.
no
I
idea.
think it was for
because
the-
I didn't get that memo.
Must have been
and,
for the important
You know, it's like the
people.
$1 million
Yeah.
wound. I never saw the money. That the government must keep that
Right?
Right.
For sure.
for sure.
Yeah.
What do we have? Some comments? Are you reading a comment? Let's get them in
Trying.
there.
Good afternoon. Thanks, DJ Play Nice. We've got still rough. I don't know if that means that
Probably the
we're
connection.
rough or he's had
Audio
a rough night.
is not great.
Audio is not
Wonderful.
great.
Fabulous.
Well, thanks, Brian,
Fabulous.
for making our day beautiful. We appreciate you telling us how bad our voices suck.
Well, the good news is, what are we doing here? We're filming this and we're casting it, right?
Yes.
So we have,
That is true.
for those of you, if you can't hear me, right? There'll be a crisp film and a crisp audio
Right.
of this later on
At a
for
later
syndication. So-
Thank you, John, for allowing us on your show. We will be back.
Who's your next guest?
Yeah,
Who
who's
you
my
got
next
coming up
guest? So I think we've got, we do have new guests coming. How
We do.
how
We
are
do.
we fixed for
But,
time?
we still have what? We still have a few minutes?
Yeah,
we
we
still have
got
a few minutes.
7 minutes.
So
7 minutes.
I
Go
want you to
ahead.
talk about
Yeah.
this. There was another story you had about a gentleman who was denied his Jersey permit because of his driving record, which
Yes.
is also a bunch of nonsense.
Nonsense.
Right.
So there was a guy, Latin guy, doesn't speak very good English. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with the story, but what it does have to do with in the story is reading his communications with the issuing authority. I was getting frustrated for the situation because he's trying to communicate with them, and also I think that the officer that's the permitting officer wasn't necessarily the nicest guy. Okay, so he's applying for his permit to carry, and he's already got his firearms ID card, so he's been through all of that.
Right, he's passed the background check.
Passed the background check, bought guns, passed the background check, got pistol purchaser permits, multiple ones. You need a permit for every handgun that you buy.
See, that's worse
Background
than New
check
York.
before you get the permit. Background check when you buy the firearm.
Each with time and money involved.
Each with time and money, because New Jersey's a point of contact state. So we have our own special NICS system that costs money. Somehow everybody else can get their stuff done for free, but not in New Jersey. So you get whacked with fees left and right. So Leonard goes to apply for a permit to carry. They end up denying him for interest of public health, safety, and welfare. And the actual denial email, the very first one that he got, because I read it, it said because of his driving record. And he had some non-criminal issues while he was driving, and he was a CDL holder. I think he did end up losing his commercial driver's license, but we're not talking about a criminal matter. What we're talking about is something that has nothing to do with disqualifiers for carry.
Right, even if you looked at 922G of the federal law, it's not one of the items underneath there as far as the felony and domestic violence and such.
So that email actually said that. He applies again. He gets denied again. This time it only said interest to public health, safety, welfare. It doesn't say anything about his driving record. But the permitting officer's asking him, did you get your driving record expunged yet? Look, well, how do you get your driving record expunged? It's not a criminal matter. There's nothing to expunge. So because he was applying to be an armored car driver, it was a very specific thing in New Jersey law. You could apply to a state police barracks. So he applies to the state police barracks specifically for a work-only armored car driver permit to carry. And he gets that thing issued, I want to say, in under a month.
Wow.
And it's signed by the colonel of state police. His little digital signature, but it's his name on it, right? So he then goes and he's talking to them about his issues. He says, because now he can't carry as a civilian. And they said, well, since we issued you your permit to carry as an armored car driver, we can also issue your permit to carry as a civilian. So submit again.
Wow.
Submits again. I think within a couple weeks, 30 days, bam, he's in there. He's got his permit to carry, issued by the colonel of state police. Subsequent to this, and you don't know this portion of the story because I haven't told it yet, he applied for additional permits for purchase in his town. Now the issuing officer there is asking him questions like, well, I see that your driving record, somehow it did actually disappear, which is awesome because I'm all for that. He's like, did you get it expunged? This, that. Who did you talk to at the state police? How did you get your permit to carry? Questions like that. I want to talk to whoever's at the state police barracks that issued you your permit. This guy's trying to scuttle this dude's existing permits or whatever he's trying to do. So I'm actually going to be continuing to follow up with this. And Officer Wong in the Carlstead Police Department, I'm going to be talking to you, or I'm going to be talking to your boss.
Sights around.
So, absolutely. And this is going to be something that I'm going to cover in the infringement report because I've already started a draft article on Leonard and his story, his beginning of his story over there because I covered this at Bearing Arms. Now I'm going to cover a more condensed, shorter version. But wait, there's more, right? So we have this extra information.
Doubling down.
And this is all over interest of public health, safety, and welfare. I'm not going to say it's a race-based thing, but maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah, it's subjectively not. It's not good when they're doing stuff like that. You know, it's like a driver's. You know, somebody goes to get a driver's license, you pass the written test, you get the driver's license.
Bingo.
Right? I
It should be that simple, yeah.
It should be. And if you have a driver's license, I mean, one's a privilege, one's a right. Right? You should be able to have the right to be able to defend yourself from evil.
Sure. Absolutely.
I think that's a good.
Good place to go out on.
Yeah.
How can people find you? I know we don't have enough time to go through everything.
I know. Let me just. All right. So
one location.
You can find me at thepenpatriot.com. If you have news tips for me, I want to hear from you. John at thepenpatriot.com. And if you need any other information from me, you got news tips, whatever you want, just email me, thepenpatriot.com. I think that's the best way to do it.
It's always awesome.
Like, subscribe, and tag.
That's it. Click that little bell.
Hit the notification bell.
Hit the notification bell. There we go. All right, we are going to be back in uno momento with Amanda Suffecool, who is an NRA Board of Directors member, and her brother, Rob Campbell. They are from Eye on the Target Radio. We will be right back with them. All right. We're good? We're back?
Hi. Welcome
We're back. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back. Riding Shotgun with Charlie, Meet the Pressers. We have Amanda Suffecool, who is a NRA Board of Directors member.
Yep.
And let's see. I don't know if we have enough time to go through the list, just like with Petrolino. She's on the Women for Gun Rights. She's got Realized Firearms Safety Education Awareness, Realized Firearms Awareness.
Realized Firearms Awareness Coalition, yes.
Oh, jeez, I knew it was something like that.
Something.
Yeah. It was, right. And you guys you and your brother, Rob Campbell here, are...
Yeah, my beautiful sidekick who has no mic.
Has no mic. Okay. I know, this is
You just got to go.
This happens to him a lot.
This happens to him a lot because you do all the...
When radio is like yelled across the room, she says that's not a thing, but I like it when you hear somebody in there rustling around trying to do something and he's not mic'd up.
Right, that's you.
So amateur.
He thinks it sounds good, and I'm like, no, it's not happening in my show. It may happen in Charlie's show, but it is not happening in my show.
You know, I'm right here.
Okay, I'm just saying.
I'm right here.
I'm just saying, since you are allowing it to happen in Charlie's show, I got nothing. There you go.
Right, we're gonna.
Boom, da, bitty, bitty, bum, bitty, boom.
Okay, so you've called us here for some reason.
Yeah, so we want to have you guys talk about all the stuff that you guys are doing, particularly talk about NRA stuff that's going on.
Yes.
You've been to the meetings. They've gotten rid of the SLC. They're making some changes. There are 28 reformers on the ballot this time.
Wow, you've done your homework. Look at.
Well, I might not know how to work audio equipment, but I can do some homework.
Do you know what the website is for the reformers?
AnewNRA.com.
Elect
A newNRA.com. So close,
AnewNRA.com.
yet so far.
Right, it wouldn't have got you there, but
No,
yes. No. Okay, so let's talk about it a little bit. So what has happened was for a while and everything that I say is opinion based on, different board members and their opinions. There is not an official stance of the NRA because I as a board member can speak for me, but cannot speak for the NRA, right?
Okay.
So there's that, just to let you know. But okay, so a couple of years ago, I ran for the board of directors of the NRA, and it's pretty funny because if you go back and watch some of the videos of the members meeting, I was in effect told, what do you know? And it's like, nothing in my background or pedigree seemed to matter to some of the folks. Right. And they were wrong. We'll just
sure.
put it that they were wrong. And so so what's been happening since is that every elections have consequences. And so last year there were 4 reformers who joined the board, and that kind of started this groundswell. I'd been elected the year before. There were others who had been elected with the idea that they were going to be involved and save the NRA and, make changes. And what happens is if you tie a string around the entire board and one guy runs in one direction and everybody else stays stationary, how far do you go? Right? And so that's what was happening. And so a new person would come in and they'd bounce off the little wall for a while and not get anything. Well, then now there's 2 people, then there's 4 people. And now there's 16 people. So all of a sudden now when 16 people bounce off the wall, the whole group kind of goes, ugh, and moves a little bit. Right? And so we've seen some movement.
Good.
So it's now at a spot where this next election is either going to give them the opportunity to kind of dig in their heels, or it is going to elect a group of change agents to where then there's the majority in things
moves the line.
And moves the line and move. Yeah. That's a very good point, or a very good way to say it. And so that's where this electednewnra.com is so critical, is go in, read their bios, see who they are, because there's some people with some pretty amazing backgrounds that have decided that they want to get involved.
That's great.
And to help, save it, fight for it, and do that. And but even now, the reformers, if you will, or I like change agents better, right?
That's good.
That group has been not allowing the board meetings to be like, check, see ya, we're going to meet you at the bar and we're done. We are duking it out every single thing. And so board meetings are lasting 15 and a half hours.
Wow. It's in a row.
At a run. Yeah, it's not,
You have bathroom breaks?
Yeah, you get a bathroom break.
That's the first thing I thought.
Here's lunch, but because the other part is that you can't, if you leave the room when they've not taken a break, they can call a vote and you're not there for it, right? So you are
politics.
You are engaged hard, and so there has been a lot of things that have been duked out, fought over, and you can read about them, and you can read about what happened and what matters in. There's a website called NRA in Danger, and it starts to line it out, and so does, there's a blog called No Lawyers, Only Guns and Money, and it will but if you're just starting to read it from the middle of the book, you have no idea who the players are, you have no idea who the characters are, and you're sitting there going, I need a scorecard for all of this. Yeah. And so there's just a lot of moving pieces to it, but let's just say that I am very positive about it, very optimistic about it, and I definitely think that we're in a great place to make the changes so that the NRA can exist another 154 years after the 154 that they've already spent.
Yeah, so 1871, founded in New York State, so I have a little bit of love for the NRA.
Right.
And being a life member too, and a training counselor, and certifying instructors all over the country. For me, it's like, I'm heavily vested in the training side of it, but
and it can't go away. There's just so much that it's done.
It's namesake. It's got that namesake that's known in the industry. It's just
Well, there's another piece of that to just the general folks who are 2A savvy, and they're like, well, there's these other organizations who are doing a better job than the NRA, and I'm going to say yes and no.
Okay.
And the yes is they are in their little slice, tiny little slice of the pie, whatever that slice of the pie is.
Right.
And so the NRA's budget runs between $200 and $300 million a year. That's how much stuff the NRA is doing, right? The other smaller organizations that people are saying, oh, this is my organization or that one, their budgets are running in the $8 to $10 million range. So the thing is that, the NRA may not be doing exactly what you want in this little slice, but they're doing all this other stuff that your guy isn't.
Right.
So I'm not telling you to not support your guy. I'm saying support them both.
Yeah.
Because the little guy needs the big guy. They need. I talked to Eric Pratt one time a couple years ago, and he was like, "We need the NRA." So Eric Pratt is Gun Owners of America, and he's like, "We need the NRA because when it gets ugly, they're taking shots at the big elephant in the room, and then the other groups can be spry and on their feet and gain some ground. That if all of that firepower were aimed at one of the little guys, they wouldn't survive the encounter."
Yeah,
For sure.
So-
Yeah, the NRA. I mean, when anti-gun folks talk about the pro-gun lobby, it's always the NRA. They never want to go after SAF. They never want to go after FPC. They never want to go after GOA. All they know is the NRA. And the NRA has become such. It's just
It's the big brother.
It's not even that. It's an acronym for anyone that's a gun person.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember for me, I talked to one of my college roommates after I started riding shotgun, and he's like, "Dude, I love what you're doing with the NRA." I'm like, "I ain't doing anything with the NRA, man. I'm teaching classes. That's it."
But, Yeah.
So there's no.
But to them, it really is.
Right,
It is the NRA is the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is the NRA.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't think that mindset is overly wrong. It's not as big and open as it could be.
It's right. I mean, there's we hear all the stats. There's 100 million gun owners, and we're down to 4 million members of the NRA. Like, there's a lot of room for potential.
There's
because
a lot of room, but
Hold on.
on.
I mean, you got a family. So one guy belongs to the NRA. Everybody in the family says they're NRA now, whether they send their $35 in for the membership or not. So it's guilt by attrition or whatever. I don't know. They just
association. Well, no, but I think you're right on that, Rob. And I think that the other piece is that if you do a survey of people, there's a lot more people who believe that they are members of the NRA than are actually members. So they're mental members. They're just not dues-paying members.
Right.
They vote with the NRA.
They vote, yeah.
They complain with the NRA. They just don't pay the
Look at Charlie when you're actually using Charlie's mics. That way you guys are cozying together.
So they vote with the NRA, and whatever the NRA says on the TV, they believe it 100%. They just don't send their membership money in.
Yeah. So
Right.
Yeah. So they're electronic versions, or in their heart versions.
They're virtual members.
Right.
Virtual members.
There we
I
go.
have an NRA membership number that's super old, and no one's ever asked to see it, so it doesn't really matter.
I do love the story where you say that they asked you for your number and oh, here you go.
We went somewhere one time and they asked for our NRA number, and I gave them my original number, which is a CLK 0318W. And they were like, "That's not a number." And then the guy's like, "Yeah, that's just a really old number." Also,
and then he's like, "Yeah, it's not me because look how young I am."
But I mean, now that I got my training credentials, and they gave me a modern, updated number, but I just use the old one because I've had it since like 1968 or something.
You guys will like an analogy that I came up with earlier, and you with the circles, the
Olympic rings.
The Olympic rings, right? That came up earlier with. It was another interview we did, but anyway, it's like doing a repair on your house, and you take down the sheetrock, and you're like, oh, geez, this wall needs repair, and I got to replace this stud and that stud, and I really don't want to take the whole house to the ground to rebuild it. I just need to fix this little area or this wall. I mean, you guys being
right,
and I was saying, like, okay, get rid of that stud. Those studs represent some people in the NRA instead of getting rid of the whole NRA.
Well, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And frankly, if you look at what's happened with the NRA, there's a couple things, and one of them is that when New York started to sue the NRA, the NRA canceled their relationship with their marketing firm, and so the NRA then officially stopped marketing the NRA in 2018.
Okay.
And so there was no overarching NRA marketing for their membership and for the membership recruitment and all of that. It just didn't happen.
So the momentum kind of stopped.
So tell me the last time you thought about Paris Hilton.
Wow, I don't know. It's been
okay.
long time.
Here's another thing about the NRA is for century now we've been a compromise group. I mean, it's always like we know something's coming. We'll take the least brutal of the beating from it, and so we really didn't get any ground until the '94 crime bill went away, and it's new to us that we're winning actually, and so we're so used to taking that beating that the NRA thinks differently than other groups. And if you watch like Eric Pratt and these guys they're constantly in court, they're fighting, they're winning, and they're making a big headway. The NRA. They too are backing a lot of bills, and I mean, they backed Bruin with almost 100%.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that they're doing. It's just we're so used to giving something as we take something, and I think that mindset is changing now slowly, but surely.
Well, and I think that the piece about it changing and how it's changing is that the EVP of the NRA is a Marine, and so he's not a lawyer.
Right.
And so he's working off of are we broken?
No,
we are not.
keep going.
Okay.
I'm just trying to.
Okay, so he's a Marine, and and Wayne wasn't a Marine, and so there's a whole difference there that is gonna reflect.
Right.
Is going to reflect hard with the NRA. But back to my Paris Hilton analogy, if you look at it, 5 years ago, Paris Hilton was on every radio show. She was on every TV. She was on the news. She was on
everywhere.
She was on The View. She was everywhere, right?
Yep.
And then she fell in love, got married. I don't know what she did, but she did something, and she stopped marketing herself.
Right.
And she disappeared. And so when she disappeared, we didn't not know that she exists. We just didn't think about her. And we haven't thought about her in years. And just recently something new came out, and she came up, and all of a sudden, all of the marketing that they'd done in the past still is in your head.
Yeah.
And as soon as you hear her name, you're like, oh, well, remember this show and remember that and remember this. So the NRA is kind of in that same boat. Right now they're starting to pick up the marketing again to change that. But the court case for New York is over. So Letitia James did not get what she wanted, and what she wanted was to defund the NRA, to tear it apart, and to take all of the money that the NRA had, that they were fighting for gun rights, and to give it to other gun safety organizations. And those gun safety organizations would have been Bloomberg. They would have been demanding mommies.
moms.
They would
Gun
have been
safety organizations.
air quotes, gun safety organizations. And so that piece is not happening now.
Good.
So the NRA is now ready to, everything's all ready to go, and so people are starting to pick up the pieces again where they couldn't before, because their job before was to be a shield and to stop incoming fire. And now all of a sudden they can put their shields down and actually start running in the directions that they need to run.
Do you think with Trump being in office, it's going to be more proactive? Like, because this is one of the things, the pro-gun folks have always been on the defense about things. Is there a possibility that we're going to be now a little more proactive in getting things done?
Well, I think that there's a lot of people who are going to push for national reciprocity. So they're either in its entirety, so there's just a singular, okay, everybody can do it, or some kind of reciprocity from state to state that your permit works like your driver's license. So I think that there's going to be that. I have to say, though, for gun owners, there's a lot. There's those of us who are just solid. We're going to fight, we're going to stand, we're going to pay our dues, we're going to train people, we're going to be involved. And then there's people who are like, I'm not scared, so we're all good. And as soon as I get scared, then I'll give them money and I'll join the club and I'll do things. And then, there's people who are like, okay, my neighborhood's safe now, so I'll sell my guns.
Right.
And then a month later or a year later or 5 years later, somebody gets hurt or attacked or something, and then all of a sudden the community then buys guns again. And it's like very reactive, not proactive.
It's that proverbial insurance. You don't really need it. You don't need it until you need it kind of thing. So if you don't really need the insurance, you don't see it right in your face, then you're not going to get it. But then, a hurricane happens, or, the fires in California happens. You're like, oh, shoot, I probably should get that insurance. I've been putting off, that mindset.
There's a lot to that. And so I think that guns and gun ownership and gun rights are one of those to where I think what I've heard is that people don't react to happy news. They react much more to news that scares them.
Yeah.
So
That's shock and awe.
Rob had made a point that most people do not know is that the NRA funded the Bruin lawsuit in its entirety with the group, the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association. So when they're like, well, where was the NRA? Well, that was a big, they were behind something that was absolutely phenomenal and instrumental to us. And currently, the Bruin lawsuit has been cited through 1,600 court cases that have made their way through the court and through decisions. 1,600.
Wow.
And then there's all the other ones that are still not in a decision-making phase yet.
Something else real quick to think about. It took 7 years for that Bruin decision to happen. 7 years.
It took 13 for Heller.
Right. 13 for Heller, 7 years for Bruin. I mean, all those years, going through courts, that's a lot of money and time.
2 for McDonald. Right. So at minimum, it's from the last court to the Supreme Court's $1 million.
Yeah.
But it's like whose money? How is it?
Exactly.
And how do you get there? And where are the steps? And what is the strategy?
And I think, and to that point, it has to be a solid case. Otherwise, it's going to get thrown out in some way by a judge. Like, oh, this doesn't pass muster. So it's got to be organizations like the NRA.
Well, look at Rahimi. I mean, Rahimi was one of those where there were some groups that were saying, okay, we don't want Rahimi to be the case.
Yeah.
We'd like something else, and it was the one who made its way up to the courts. Yeah. But there were some good nuggets that came out of there, but most people aren't covering the good nuggets that came out of Rahimi.
Right.
So I think it's very positive that the Supreme Court is willing to hear gun cases and that there's a couple more coming on their docket. So June is going to, once again, be really spicy as we're all watching what happens.
And as of Monday, things are going in a good direction.
As of Monday, there's that. As of Monday, the presidential platform is not anti-gun.
Yep.
Let's just put it that way. I mean, Donald Trump is not the most pro-gun president we've ever had, but I think he's more gun neutral, and I think that he wasn't raised in a gun community.
He wasn't, right? New York City.
Right.
It just wasn't in his makeup.
Yeah, his bringing up upbringing.
And so yeah,
but he's best we got.
He's
Best we've had in a little bit too.
Right, and he's way better than what we had. And then when you look at J.D. Vance, and now J.D. Vance,
he was brought up around
the Second Amendment is in his DNA.
Yeah.
Did you see the speech that he gave at the RNC about why his mamaw, when she died, had X number of guns spread out all over the house?
19 guns all around the house?
19 guns, because she wasn't mobile, and so it was just easier to buy another gun and put it someplace else so that she could get to it quicker.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how they do it down south.
It's Ohio, man. It's not down south.
It's not really south.
South of New York.
We're a little.
Barely.
Okay.
Barely.
Sorry, guys. This is Matt Mallory.
Right.
Geometry is not. Wait, geography.
Geography.
It's geometry.
Suffecool.
It's geometry that he's better at, not geography, right?
Oh my God, that's awesome.
That's right. I forgot he was Ohio. I was thinking he was Florida or something.
Rob had an intern that worked with him one time, and he was like, "Hey, kid, you were such a mathlete, right?"
Mathlete.
And so I'm just gonna say I'll have to come up with something about map.
Yeah,
you're right. Something.
Right. Somebody asked, listen, could you use geometry in a sentence? And they said, yeah. Somebody planted an acorn. It grew up and said, gee, I'm a tree.
But
I'll be here all week.
Okay.
Anyway.
That's dad jokes.
Right.
Those are great jokes. Dad jokes are great jokes. Looks like the audio is a lot better, by the way.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. So what do we want to? What do you got now? What do you want to talk about?
8 minutes left. All right.
Okay.
So NRA board, a slew of people support the NRA. Get involved with all the organizations out there that are helping fight back these gun laws.
Website
electanewNRA.com. ElectanewNRA.com.
I'm gonna give my headset to Rob here because I want Rob to talk about this. But I listen to the show all the time. You guys have eyeonthetargetradio.com. There you go. One of the things you like to talk about, Rob, is how you think the NFA is going to be stripped. Like they're not going to get rid of it; they're just going to get rid of everything in it, and there's going to be nothing.
If they try to get rid of it, the media will fire up and they'll go crazy over that. But they could take all the penalties out of it; it'll still be there as an empty box, and nothing will be there. But the NFA will still stand. It's just there's nothing left to to pester anybody. But there's a couple of different groups that you got to look at in this. I mean, the guys who buy collectible machine guns, they don't want to see the NFA go away because that'll cut into the price of their investments. The other, I mean, the blue city managers, they don't want to see the NFA go away because they don't want these Glock switches and that to be legal in their communities. And so there's still a fight in our hands, but but I think it is something that is going away. I think Bruin's going to take that from us.
Yeah, I'm being current law enforcement and doing road patrol. It's always a concern. The two most dangerous things we do is walking up to a car in a traffic stop and going to a domestic violence call. So that is a concern, but then at some point we can't just put all this government in place saying, the government's going to protect you, because we all know that government doesn't protect you. And even law enforcement, we're the cleanup crew. We come in after everything happens. So it's a cart before the horse.
And it's the machine gun, if you've ever been with one, it's not as dangerous as you would expect. I mean, watch some of these 10-year-olds at the three-gun matches with their Benelli. They got a way better handle on it than the average person with an MP5.
Right. Yeah. But go ahead, Charlie.
No, for sure. I mean, you can teach young people how to shoot, and machine guns is just something else, and they're fun to shoot. Expensive, but fun to shoot.
Not very accurate, so it's not like something somebody's usually going to use for
you're not doing any bullseye. Right.
But there we go. Bullseye
machine gun shooting?
Yeah, machine gun.
Some of what works for the military with the machine gun is that everybody has one, so now you have this field of bullets that are flying around everywhere.
Suppressive fire.
Right. So it isn't necessarily one accurate guy. It's just a massive wall of lead that's flying around, and you don't want to be out there.
For sure. And as a civilian thing, you never want that for safety-wise. You want to hit what you're aiming at.
So, right. Of course.
But like I say, the shotgun is the king. Even if you can't buy a machine gun, shotgun's still the winner.
Nice little pellets. Nine little pellets flying in your direction.
Nice. All right, so radio show. You guys, first of all, you guys have been coming to SHOT Show since the 1900s, right?
That's it. She's like, I'm out of here.
I'm not. We're not talking about anyone's age. I'm saying you guys have been coming here since you were 7. Right?
We've been coming since about 2004, somewhere right in there.
So 20 years.
21 years. That's great. And
the first couple times we came, we stayed in some dumpster off the strip.
and shady hotel.
We lived out of our pocket with tuna fish and crackers, but things have gotten better for us over the years.
Right. Well, now you guys have a spot on Radio Row, which is fabulous. How long have you been there? 4 years?
We were trying to think of that the other day, and it's got to be 4 or 5 years because I don't know. A couple of years ago they put us on the floor here, and then they put us back out on the strip again.
It was like 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was in 22. They
right after COVID.
There were a lot less people coming. Yeah, right after COVID. Right. So they had a big spot on the main floor,
which I like that. That was kind of nice because everybody's looking at it.
Yeah.
Right.
Instead of having to walk down the hallway.
We were here. We were on Radio Row just a year or two before that particular time, but we did like the floor. Like you say, everybody's watching you. They're sitting in tables and watching the show going on as you were doing your stuff.
Right. So it's my turn to change because I haven't done it yet. So I'm going to ask a question, hand it off to you guys, and answer it. Right. What was the show like back then, 29,000 years ago? Where was it? Because I know it wasn't always here. It's been here for the majority, but I think it was Florida, and it jumped around kind of like some other shows. So I'll let you guys answer that.
We've only ever been here and Florida, so I don't know exactly when they started here, but Florida was really nice in the fact that it's a completely different venue, and it was funny because down there they took us to the range there, and since Florida is completely flat, they had pushed up this mountain of dirt, and they shot at both sides of this mountain of dirt.
Shot at each other. Kind of.
So it was a police range that they used, but there was this mound of dirt that was big enough that they could drive trucks on the top of it, but there was ranges on each side of it, and that's what they used as a backstop. But.
And I think for us, the dynamic changed when we got picked up for radio, and we started doing that in 2010. and then we got picked up national for it in 2018. And so before that, we would just come walk the show, and it was, I have to say that the difference for me is the dynamic of now we know people. I mean, you'll walk through and people stop you and you talk to them. And
it's not that you know people; they know you.
Maybe it's a little bit of both, but I know people.
Of course.
But for years, it was just we would walk through, look at product, talk to somebody, and then we were like, we've got a little gun shop in Ohio, and they're like, yeah, we hear that from everybody, right? And so it just was it was just a shift in dynamic when we started to go.
I think
our
first couple of years here, we knew the lady that ran EMF, and we knew the our sales reps from some of the shops, but that was about the extent of the people that we actually knew on the floor.
Right.
I mean, some of them, it's like, oh, we've seen them or we've read their stuff, but we don't know who they were or anything.
Yeah, so it really has changed, and I think the thing about the show floor now is you see a lot more, and maybe I wasn't looking before, but I think the podcasters have changed the dynamic, and so you see a lot more people crossing over, talking to people,
also,
videos, writers.
Women were not, early on, the women were not in this as much. So you look now, and there's a huge contingent of women that are coming through, working not just the gun bunnies that are trying to sell you stuff, but they're actually they're in charge of marketing and stuff, and there's a big change there, and you get to meet some of these ladies that have been. They started right out of high school at a local company or something. We were talking to one this morning. Started right out of high school. She's now she does remote work for them, but it was she's been 21 years or something with the same company.
So it used to be that you'd walk down through, and I have to say that it's shifted a lot. But I would ask a question at one of the gun shops or one of the gun booths, and they would answer him.
Right, they wouldn't come back to her.
So they would they would turn, and I would ask the question, and then they'd look to the guy and answer the guy. That has stopped. That is absolutely the industry has woken up to the fact that women are the fastest growing demographic, and they're knowledgeable, and they treat them as such. And so it's good. And so things are looking very positive in the Second Amendment world.
So it's funny you say that, and that we're sitting here in the booth of Otis, who is out of New York, upstate New York, and sponsored the show and letting us use the booth here. The founder of the company, she was like 16 when she started the company.
Oh, that's right. I watched one of the videos.
Yeah.
Her dad, she had to have her dad do stuff because they weren't going to take her serious.
Yeah, they wouldn't take her. What are you talking about, a little lady? And yeah, so it was her. I think her dad had opened up the loan line of credit for her. It was pretty interesting.
Wild.
Yeah,
pretty wild.
It is super. Well, it's always awesome to have you guys. I always love hanging out with you, and Vegas. It's draining, but it's awesome. We do this for all you guys out there, so yeah.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for being on. Everybody can find you guys at eyeonthetargetradio.com.
Yep.
And elect a new NRA.com. There we go. So that's where you can find, and we're encouraging people to vote for the 28 reform candidates. No bullet voting, just vote for these 28 candidates so we can get some reformers on there, make the positive changes that we need in the NRA. We are going to be doing some other shows tomorrow, Wednesday, and on Thursday. Tomorrow we have scheduled Neil Widener and John Correa from Active Self-Protection, and we have Zeke Stout after that. On Thursday, we have Ken Campbell from Gunsight, and we have John Crump scheduled as well. He's one of the media guys that's cranking out a lot of materials and doing a lot of great stories. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to Meet the Pressers or Riding Shotgun, please make sure you do. Hit the notification bell. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Be safe.